Okay, so we are back in my kitchen with my son. And we are going to try an experiment again. It's going to be a surprise, isn't it? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to making some paint today, all right? So I started off with some baking soda, and I added some food coloring. Now, the recipe does say that you could use, they use liquid watercolor, which is basically watercolor paint, but it has water in it, so it's a liquid. Those paints are very concentrated. We don't really use them at school. I know some teachers who have used them. In fact, I've got some that I'm going to experiment with and see if it's maybe something that might be new in our classroom next school year. But for right now, I just stuck with food coloring because I knew that that's what you guys would potentially have. If you have some liquid kids craft paint, you could try that, but I have no idea how that would work. If you try it with regular craft paint, which is a type of acrylic paint, I, again, don't know how that would work, but you can find out and tell me. So I'm going to take some red food coloring, just regular old food coloring. I have 1/8 of a cup of baking soda, and to find 1/8 of a cup, because it's not something that we use a whole lot of, this is actually the coffee scoop that I got, and it just happens to be 1/8 of a cup. So I rinsed the coffee out, and I used that. And I have 1/8 of a cup of baking soda. I'm going to add several drops of food coloring. Now, if you have a liquid paint, you're going to want to use like a spoon. Less than, I would say, you're not going to want to have, until you're happy with the color, but I would probably not try to like fill up your container. So I'm going to mix up the baking soda, the baking soda and the food coloring. I did that first. I don't know. I've never done this. We're finding out. Sometimes that's the fun of it. So the first one, we used then 1/8 of a cup of water. Now, one thing I have noticed is that it does not stay mixed together very well. So you're probably, if you mix up a lot of colors, gonna want to kind of stir them as you go. Now, we picked up 2 of my son's paintbrushes that are a little more, they have stiffer bristles than mine do. They're little kid paintbrushes, okay? Now, the directions say to use watercolor paper. Now, watercolor paper is a thicker paper that is designed to absorb more water, okay? You don't have, if you don't have it, I would pick maybe a piece of tag board or a piece of thicker paper, maybe like a scrapbooking paper, or if all you have is just a regular old piece of paper, I would put like a box or maybe a couple paper towels underneath of this, and then not move it until it's dry. Now the yellow one, which looks orange, that I did, I added 1/8 of a cup of water. This one, I added just a little bit less than 1/8 of a cup of water. You want it to be paintable, but you don't want it to be super thin, okay? So I would start adding water slowly so that way you don't end up with runny paint, okay? But you want to be able to spread it, okay? So we've got that. So baking soda, food coloring, water, and then I told you this was an experiment. You're also going to need vinegar, okay? So vinegar is what makes pickles smell like pickles, okay? No, don't use pickle juice. I don't know if that would work, okay? Vinegar comes in there's like apple cider vinegar, and then there's like just regular old white vinegar. I have just regular old white vinegar. Yeah, it's just in that cup. It looks like water. It does not smell like water. Okay? So we've got 2 different things that we're trying here, okay? I've got just a piece of white, small section of white watercolor paper with nothing on it, and then I have a small section of the white watercolor paper that I took a Sharpie and wrote on. I don't know what will happen, so we're both going to try this and see what happens, okay? So I'm going to move the camera down so you can see what we are going to be doing, okay? So, just a second. Yep. So we're going to stir them up pretty good. Like this is because the baking soda continues to separate from the water, okay? And then you're going to want to make sure that when you paint with it, that you kind of mix it up because you want to have some of that baking soda go onto your paper, okay? So I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to paint it on. Yep, I'm just going to paint it on. I don't know how much you need. So I'm going to paint it on. Why don't you do on your paper, please? Okay, I'm going to stir this one up.
I'm going to do the flower one.
Well, you've got that right now. We've got other papers that we're going to try as well. Okay. I'm going to paint this on. Okay, so the other thing that you also need, besides the vinegar, is the directions say an eyedropper. Well, I'm thinking that that's probably, out of all of this, like the one thing that you guys probably do not have is an eyedropper. We have what's called a pipette, only because my parents sent Jackson a STEM kit. Okay, so I painted an area. I'm going to show you now what's going to happen. So if you don't have an eyedropper, or in our case, the pipette, you could use you could try another paintbrush. You could, and like dripping. In fact, Jack, go get another paintbrush for me, okay?
Yes, Mama.
So that way we can see how it works, okay? So I've got my vinegar and I've got a pipette here, and it's got some water in it. So what I'm going to do, it has some vinegar in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that on to, ooh, I'm going to come in so you can see that before I do it again. Okay? Baking soda and vinegar will cause an eruption. And so it makes, it fizzles up.
Mommy, can I do it?
In just a little bit, yeah. Now, if you let it dry, I have no idea what will happen. But, ooh, that's kind of cool. I wonder what will happen if I maybe tip the paper and see if I can. So that's with the pipette, just kind of dripping the vinegar onto, I wonder if the color will smear, kind of, onto it. Okay, so that's with the pipette. Now I'm just going to take another one of the paint brushes. I was also thinking that you could also maybe just get it way covered in it and maybe drop it on there. Or maybe just paint it on there. That did not seem to cause as much of an eruption as the other ones did. But let's see here. What if I maybe paint a new area? I maybe paint, sorry, it separated out. I maybe paint a new area. I wonder what would happen if I took the paintbrush and painted, ooh. So it's fizzing as it paints. Okay? Now, how this will look when it dries, I don't know. Okay? I'm going to go over here to my son's.
That's me.
Okay. Go ahead and drop some and let's see what happens. Okay, try maybe coming over here where, oh, no, thanks, okay. See what happens. I feel like the yellow is harder to see than the red.
I can still see it.
Yeah, well, you can see it, it's just not filming very well.
Okay, watch this burrow.
I wonder what will happen if we kind of drop it with the paintbrush. Oh. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Okay, so erupting paint.
That's what we're. And my mom also. Yes. Also, my mom made a flower, and she might try that one with the
Right.
stuff.
So the erupting paint. Yeah. So this is what this is called. It's called erupting paint. All right. I think it's kind of fun. I was trying to find things, especially for those of you who are watching younger siblings or have younger cousins or younger ones that you're watching, that you're trying to find things to keep them entertained. You're trying to find things to keep them going. Okay, well, food coloring. Most people have some food coloring in their house. I suppose you could try mixing it with maybe like Kool-Aid powder or a drink mix powder that will change color when you add water to it. You could try that. If it has sugar in it already, it might get a little sticky, but if it's just Kool-Aid, I mean, you have to add the sugar to it. So you could try that. That might work to color the baking soda. It might not work. I have no idea. All right, so food coloring, this is just store brand. These are relatively inexpensive. I don't remember how much. I bought this a long time ago. I don't use food coloring all that much, but I have it, okay? Baking soda is cheap, okay? You can get a whole big box of it for relatively no money at all. Most kitchens have baking soda, okay? It's good for cleaning. It's good for cooking with. All right, so baking soda. Vinegar, again, if all you have is the apple cider vinegar, my guess is it should also work. Apple cider vinegar is used a little more in cooking. It's not quite as strong of a vinegar as a white vinegar, but it might work, it might not work. But again, plain old white vinegar is fairly inexpensive to buy. All right, so you could definitely make more colors. He's been, oh, okay, careful, don't use too much, okay? You could definitely make more colors. You just want to make sure that you get it stirred up. It seems like both the yellow and the red worked fairly well. The yellow looks more orange on camera. Works fairly well. I use more water in one and less water in the other. You just don't want it to be too soupy. And obviously you could mix up lots of colors. And paint. If you don't have the watercolor paper, that's okay. Just set something underneath so that way you can have some, you can let it sit there to dry, okay? So I challenge you to try some erupting paint. Make whatever colors you would like. I chose colors that were, they're warm colors, but they're not going to make a yucky color when they mix together. If you use complementary colors, like if I had used yellow and purple, those are complementary colors. Complementary colors when mixed together are going to make brown. They're going to make a icky brown color. Okay, so that would be the only thing that I would maybe go, don't use the complementary colors.
Mama,
don't mix 47 colors and expect it to look really, it might look really cool in the end. It might end up a muddy, yucky, gross mess. Okay, so this would be something fun to do with a kid. If you have a younger one, and if it was me, I would maybe see if I could find a plastic tote, not like a giant one, or maybe like a brownie pan, and like put the paper in there and let them paint on it and then add the vinegar and leave the paper in there, so that way the eruptions, especially if you get a lot of baking soda, would kind of be contained and help you with the cleanup, because you need to clean up after yourself, okay? So, baking soda, food coloring, water, vinegar. Add the vinegar last. Don't add the vinegar first. Don't add the vinegar to the baking soda instead of water. No. Okay? You got to have the baking soda to paint, or the water to make the baking soda into paint, and then the vinegar will make the eruption part of it. Now, sure, you could just take this mixture and add vinegar to it, and it would just be an eruption, and that would be cool too. But the idea is we can paint and make erupting paint. So, I challenge you to make some erupting paint, and maybe you could do a little filming of it and show me what it looks like. All right? I cannot wait to see you guys. Those of you that I will get to see next year, I cannot wait to see you guys next year in my classroom to have some more art experiences that I can help guide you through in a classroom setting. And I hope that you guys have been having some fun with these videos, and I will talk with you guys later. All right, bye.